There we go. Welcome everybody to our day 4 of the 2021 live stream extravaganza. Today, I was going to say this week, but today we're joined by some of the coolest people in the motion capture / virtual production industry. I'm really excited for this one. This is going to be a lot of fun because I think this is one of the biggest, coolest kind of advances in, I guess, filmmaking in quite a while. This is super cool. So I'm really excited. And so we'll get started. As I like to do, we'll go ahead and give a little, how did I say this? I just said this a second ago. Little background of who you are, what you do, and then we'll jump right into it. So we'll start with you, Solomon, and we'll go ahead.
All right. Caught me by surprise. Thank you so much, Houston and Kelly. I'm really honored to be here. Right now, I'm here in the U.S., based in Alexandria, Virginia, but I'm originally from Uganda in East Africa, and I'm a 3D animator. Well, I think that's it for now.
Cool. And Winbush?
Yeah, so my name is Johnathan Winbush. I'm a motion graphics artist based out of Southern California. I work primarily in movies and television. I do a little bit of immersive tech with VR, been doing NFTs a lot lately. But yeah, I'm primarily a Cinema 4D and Unreal Engine user, and then of course the Adobe suite.
Cool. And Gabby /Feeding
Hi,
Wolves.
I'm Gabriella. I go by Feeding Wolves. I am doing all-in engine virtual production with an emphasis on motion capture, and also a student of Johnathan Winbush. So I'm very happy to be here with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you. And Kelly, who are you?
I'm Kelly. I'm I work for the Puget Systems in the labs department. I specialize in 3D rendering, 3D content creation, and game development.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And much like yesterday, I'm going to be taking a back seat for this one and kind of let the experts handle their business in this. If you do have any questions, I'll be sure to put them into the chat and we'll get them answered as best we can. And I guess that's it. Or I'll fade back, and then Kelly, I'll let you kind of take it from here.
Sure.
Right on. Goodbye.
So I guess we'll start off kind of easy and say, like, what's happening right now in the motion capture virtual production space that you're really excited about? Anyone can jump in there.
Solomon looks like he's got an answer. He's thinking. You go ahead.
Yeah, I was waiting to see what
Yeah, I think, excuse me about that. The one thing that I'm excited about, I think the improvement in the graphics cards, being able to handle real-time rendering. Man, I remember when I come from the world of rendering using like Mentor in Maya. I remember when we used to do keyframe animation and things like that. But now to be able to have a portable system, that you can take anywhere, and I'm seeing the improvements in anti-magnetism. I think that's exciting for indie filmmakers to be able to tell a story using motion capture.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess I'll go. It's just the real-time technology in general, like as Solomon was saying, like I come from a world of first CPU rendering and then GPU rendering more recently, and now finally real-time for Unreal Engine, and then you have like EmberGen, so we can actually do like fire effects and liquid and particle effects all in real time. So for me in the virtual production space, like that's huge because you can spend more time being creative and less time trying to troubleshoot or work in like wireframes and then spend a couple of minutes to see what the final image is going to look like, or just those nuances that we had in the past. So for me, it's all the real-time tech that's been coming out that's been kind of revolutionary.
Sure. Yeah, I come from your same background. I have my degrees in digital art, and I used XSI or soft image.
Yeah, I did too.
And I remember like trying to work on lighting for a scene, and you'd have to like wait, 10 minutes for a tiny little preview to pop up. And now you're just doing it as you go. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there anything that you're excited about, Gabby?
I mean, anything related to mocap, I'm excited about. There's so much going on with that. I have an Extend suit, but for people who just want to like test out mocap in general, especially with Unreal, there's so many things now. You can use like your phone. There's apps that you can use your phone. I even tried the Maxon Moves a while ago that Cinema 4D had, where I used my cell phone, face mocap, using the UE Live Link face. There's so much, there's so many cool tools that you can use and capture motion capture and get that data into Unreal that it's amazing. There's so much coming out now. Like if you had asked me a year ago if this stuff would be possible, I'd be like, oh, if it is, it's probably like worth so much money, you know, like only studios can afford it. But now they're in the hands of like people like myself, and you know, anyone can get their hands on it. You can get like, you know, free trials and stuff and just see if you like the workflow. So yeah, there's so much. And Unreal is perfect for motion capture because it's an animation compositing software. So of course you want to be able to get your own animations in there instead of working with just, you know, what you find on Marketplace, which is awesome. But, you can, I'm reading a question over here. Yeah, you can do so much with it. So as a creative, I've seen people use motion capture, not just in Unreal, but in Cinema 4D. I've seen like amazing stuff, like even people who are using like DAZ characters. It's just kind of mind blowing. I kind of want to bounce off of what Winbush was mentioning earlier with like NFTs. And I'm really curious to know if like you've seen people use mocap with NFT. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually done it myself. I've sold several NFTs using the Rococo suit. And so like I'm not a good character animator at all. And so once I was able to get my hands on, you know, like a motion capture solution that allowed me to actually add humanoid figures to a lot of my work, which is really cool because that's something that I would either have to hire somebody else in the past to do, or I was stuck to, you know, like the presets that the Mixamo library had. And so I was you know, it's like I don't use the motion capture stuff a lot for client work. So once the NFT space started growing and I found myself being able to use my Rococo suit in there, I did maybe like 4 or 5 NFTs using motion capture. Like the first one being with Mixmaster Mike. I put him in the Rococo suit, and like he's the world's fastest DJ that uses vinyl. So it was cool to see like him doing his work in the motion capture solution actually keeping up. And I did that via Bluetooth. Like that wasn't even over the Wi-Fi. So I had a direct connection to the laptop and it kept up with the frame rate, 60 FPS and everything. So yeah, it's been really cool to use, you know, these different type of solutions and experiment in the NFT space.
I really think the motion capture, especially with these suits, has just exploded over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like Polar Express was one of the first movies that used
Yeah.
facial motion capture. And that was in 2004, I think. So like 17 years. And then all of a sudden, I feel like the last couple of years, there's been this huge push to kind of get these tools into more hands, into private hands instead of like giant studios.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
really cool to see like the likes of the three of you now having success with motion capture at home and building your own businesses around that. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
I remember when I first watched Avatar, excuse me, coming down with a cold or something. But for me, James Cameron opened the door for what was possible with motion capture. And I remember watching the behind the scenes, looking how the world of Pandora was brought to life, the Navi and all that. So I was like, man, that is thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and I would never be able to afford that. And I remember the first motion capture suit that I was interested in. This was 2009. It was by a company. It was a company in Canada called Measurand. That motion capture suit was $50,000, and it had like gloves too at the time called Shape Wrap. And so I was like, man, I really, really wanted to, and I even contacted them. They told me the price. I was like, Thank you. You know, and then there was I think that at the time I was trying to make an animated movie about a mountain gorilla and a wildlife ranger, and I wanted to be able to play the role of both of those characters, and that's how I was trying to get into motion capture. And then fast forward to that, I think the Kickstarter for the perception neuron, that's when I really got excited. Like, now there's a possibility for us, you know, the little people being able to afford motion capture.
Mhm. And some of the tech that I've seen for doing the facial motion capture with just any webcam or
Yeah.
your cell phone or whatever. I mean, not let alone the iPhone stuff where it has like mapping your face and a lot more accurate. But now I forget the name of the company. But they had the Faceware. There we go. They had that free trial not too long ago
Yeah.
where you could try it out, and like just my Logitech C920, within a
Yeah.
few minutes, I'm able to get that moving in MetaHuman in Unreal in real time. Like, it's unbelievable what is happening now. Is there something that you're looking forward to that you've heard discussions of, or something that's coming that people might want to be aware of?
I mean, if we do, we probably can't talk about it.
That's true.
Yeah.
I do want to
And-
say that Solomon Jagwe, when I first got into, I started learning about mocap. You had tested out everything, and I
Yeah.
saw that commercial, or it was like something you did with, I think it was like, it kind of looked like it was a cartoon that you did, that you used mocap and the behind the scenes, and like I was just kind of blown away by like how you were using all of this tech. And every time I started learning, like Extend, there was Solomon Jagwe with a tutorial and an overview. Faceware, there he is, you know, like iClone, like you've tested out everything probably before most people have. So I guess if anybody has the answer to that, Kelly, I think it would be Solomon.
NDA.
Solomon's the OG. Like,
Exactly.
his channel deserves to be much bigger than it is. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Like, anything that I've seen Solomon already either looked
Yeah.
at or has a video for. So yeah, kudos to you for keeping it up, because I
Yeah.
mean, you definitely deserve a lot more recognition than what I see you get online. Like, you should have
Yeah.
like 2 million followers right now, to be honest.
Thank you so much, guys. And for me, it really comes from the desire to tell stories, because I come from a village. I grew up in a village deep in Africa, right? Right, like walking barefoot in the village, and I'd never seen a TV before, no radio. I look up at the sky and I see planes, and I'm thinking those are metallic birds of some kind, right? And now here I am. That's why I'm so excited to be able to use technology to tell our stories. And I come from a place where if you don't have something, you make it, you know? And so when you see that head-mounted camera rig that was me desperately trying to make a head-mounted camera so I could track my face, even before Faceware was big, you know, at the time, because Faceware started off mainly with the software, which was a big part of it. And I think even in, I think it was Planet of the Apes, they were using some of the Faceware head-mounted camera systems. So I've been chasing people around, you know, making connections. And I think that's the one thing that I've learned in this industry, that the more you show people the passion that you have to tell a story, they are willing to help you along the way. And that's how I made connections with Faceware. I remember when Mixamo was still here, right, before Adobe bought them.
Yeah.
They actually gave me 3 days. They flew me over to the West Coast to their studio in California and Los Angeles. So 3 days of just being in that space just blew my mind, you know, seeing what mocap was being used to do at the time. And Mixamo was the go-to library for motion capture at the time. But now anyone can create that same library with a motion capture suite. Yeah.
So we have a good question from YouTube from Stellar Elite. They're interested in mocap that doesn't require a suit. They had recently heard about AI camera-based options. Do you have thoughts, suggestions?
Yeah, I was actually going to say that was one of the things I was looking forward to. Like, I forgot the company that's doing it, because I looked into it a year ago, but it was all AI-based motion capture. So you would literally upload, you know, your MPEG or whatever to this AI database, and then it would send you back like a skeletal rig of the motion capture and everything. I'm not sure if it did the rigging, or anything, but like it was very early in the stages, so I think it only came back at like 24, 30 FPS, but it looked very promising. So I'd have to look, or unless one of you guys know the name, I'd have to look them up. But yeah, that AI solution looked really, really slick.
I think there's two. There's like Radical. It's I think Radical Live, where you use a phone like an iPhone, and the other one I think is Move.ai,
Yeah.
where they use like kind of like a whole, it's like a optical kind of setup. So yeah, and
Yeah. And there was a time when you could actually use the kinetic, like if you had a 360, Xbox 360,
Oh, right,
you could use their depth sensing cameras to be able to use, and even now people are still using that to capture the performance of a person using, but it was that thing that was created by Microsoft for video games, So, I mean, I've seen people who have hacked it where they have two cameras. Those are cameras, but unfortunately, some of the cameras have been taken off the market, either bought out by different companies. Even Face Shift, when we first started out, was like the place where we used to go to do like facial motion performance capture. And then, of course, Apple bought them and it ended up in the iPhone 10. So, and now, I mean, what was it? Dynamic X was bought out by 2K. So it's things like that there's a constant shift in the industry where there's like us get a chance to use to create motion capture, and then it gets pulled off the market because the company has been bought out by someone bigger. And so there have been tools along the way that have disappeared from the market as a result.
The one that used to connect, that was Episoft, and they're still around because actually they reached out a few months ago. But you could use not just the Kinect now. Well, Microsoft actually came out with a new Kinect like maybe 2 years ago called the Kinect Azura, and that one's better than the ones that were on the Xbox. It's like, this is strictly for enterprise use. It's a depth camera and it is pretty good. But with the Episoft software, you can also use practically any camera. So you can use your DSLR, you can use your webcam now. The PlayStation Eye camera that they had for their, their motion capture gaming stuff, you can actually use that as well. So I'm not sure how much Episoft costs because now it's on a subscription base. Before, you used to be able to just buy a license, but like everything else, they went to the subscription model. But they're definitely worth checking out because they do have, if I remember right, a free trial, like a 30-day free trial or something like that. But yeah, I would say if you don't have a mocap suit, they're definitely ones to, go in and try out.
I think there's also like Vive mocap options as well, which I'm like excited to test out. I haven't tested it out yet, but using like VR trackers, and that's really exciting too. That's originally what I was gonna get. So that's another option that I'm actually looking into testing out of curiosity and just for fun.
I think it's out there, right? In public. Manus they have the VR solution. So yeah, you could just use your Vive trackers and everything to do your mocap. I think, did you use that, Solomon? Did I catch you do a video on?
On which one was that again?
With Manus, with their VR solution?
Yes. Not the VR solution, but their gloves.
Just the gloves. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's called Polygon. I'm shocked, Solomon, you haven't done that. You created like you created an Android version of the UE Live Link face. You'd think that like you would have like, oh, by the way, that's crazy that you did that.
So I think they actually sent me an email offering for me to try it out, but I think at the time I was so deep in another project, I didn't get a chance to do that. Yeah, I would love to try it because I think by the time the gloves came out for Exsense, they sent me the first glove that was the newest gloves that was coming out for Exsense to try it out. But then they had mentioned that there was another one coming out though for virtual reality, and so once I sent that back, I think that's when another project kicked in, and I didn't get a chance to test it. Yeah.
I saw that new DJI Ronin camera. That it's not really a tool for motion capture at this point, but I like the fact that it had a built-in motion or a built-in depth sensor for controlling focus poles.
Yeah.
And so I can just see that there's a lot of that tech just sitting there on the edges waiting to like really explode into this space.
Yeah.
Just
And
need
there's
someone
something
to do
that
it.
Disney is working on something behind the scenes. I think there was a research paper that I saw online where it definitely markerless. You don't need cameras, things like. So there is something else happening behind the scenes that is definitely going to change the industry altogether. And one thing that I'm curious about with Avatar 2 and 3 and 4, I know they're gonna have some scenes that are underwater, right?
Mhm.
So I'm curious to see a motion capture suit that is waterproof that you can actually use underwater. Yeah.
They're actually going to have the actors swim in the water and then capture that.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're going to do that. Yeah. So
That'll be
those are
interesting.
some of the things that I'm excited about, because if you have a project where you have a swimmer, and you need to be able to just capture their performance, maybe they're fighting a shark,
Mhm.
or something like that. That would be so cool. Yeah, to be able to immerse someone in water and still be able to capture. I mean, it's challenging because you're not going to rely on the same technology we have now because of the
Right.
water. Yeah, the refraction and all that. So that's going to be fun.
I can even imagine trying to do something where a person's like floating in space. Like if you're on the International Space Station, you would film them in water to get that sense of
Yeah.
weightlessness on the actor. Yeah,
Oh,
it'll be
yeah.
interesting to see how he comes up
Or
with that.
even now, you could probably just even send them up to 0Gs since they got
True.
regular people going up there now.
Yeah, we'll just talk to Bezos and get a flight.
Yeah, I mean, Shatner just went there, so I mean, they can send anybody up at this point.
Mock up in space.
Yeah.
I liked Winbush. You did one where you were you flying? Like you did one where like you showed that you were like in your living room and you ran and like you kind of just like landed on your couch, and I was like,
Yeah.
Mom, we're gonna have to move some furniture around because like I got a light bulb idea. Like
That was so cool.
I just yeah, I'm always just trying to have fun and just try to experiment. So I was like, like whenever you're using a Rococo suit, like sometimes if you try to do like a jumping motion or lift at least like 1 foot off the ground, how your character kind of just like takes off because it loses that tracking point. So
Yeah.
I have a blow up mattress here, and I was like, I wonder if I leave both feet off the ground, if I can actually do like the Superman motion in the mocap suit, since it's going to go crazy and fly off anyway. And yeah, it actually worked. Like I mixed it with what's it called? Mixamo had like a Superman pose already in there. So like I took my beginning animations and then I blended the animation into the Mixamo animation, and it looked just, like a rocket man jumping off a building and flying through the city and stuff. So yeah, that was really fun to work with.
That's very cool, man.
So are there any, for the motion capture side of things, is there any kind of improvements you're like pushing for, hoping to get that maybe someone might not know about?
I think I have a suggestion, and I'm hoping the industry can do this. When I first got the Excense suit, there were two options that came with it in the case. There was the large one, and then there was a really small one. So I couldn't fit in the large one, right? So I literally had to lose 10 pounds to be able to fit in the small one because I tried and I was sweating so much. I'm looking for a solution where it just, you know how like Tony Stark can just, and then the suit just comes off on him like that. It would be so cool to have like some kind of fabric that you just put on and then it just fits your whole body, and that's it. And that becomes the capture.
Yeah.
I mean, the one Gabby had was pretty cool, where you didn't need to shoot. You kind of just put the markers on you. Well, I guess perception neuron is like that as well, right? Like you just kind of put the sensors on where your joints would be at. I mean, that's something that I would be looking forward to because, I've gained some weight over this pandemic. So my Rococo suit is kind of tight right now. So definitely need a different solution.
I think we've all gained weight. I think all of us have. Like, I have to force myself to go on walks because I wake up and I'm like, I just want to get to my computer. Okay. Like, I can't, this is the best part, And then I'm like, of course, walking the dog is great. But that was the Awinda. And I always recommend that if you're gonna get a suit that like a lot of different people of different sizes are gonna use, because like you can get one or two sizes on the Extend suit or any mocap like full body suit, but if you have like the ones where you just strap the sensors on, again, the perception neuron has it as well. then you can have so many people use it, like if you're doing training or whatever, you never have to worry about like somebody, not fitting in it. But there is something like nice about putting on like a full body mocap suit though. And you're like, all right.
Sure. So
Yeah,
Matt has a question. Curious how much time you have to spend cleaning up the capture data to make it fully usable. Is that getting better as the tech evolves?
Ooh,
I'm gonna stay out
right?
of this one. Because Xsense does a really good job with MVN HT reprocessing, which basically cleans up all the data. But I am really curious about the other solutions and what that's like. So I have the same question.
Yeah, I mean, Rococo, they have some cleanup tools within Rococo Studio. I'm lazy, so I don't want to do cleanup. So if it didn't capture right the first time, like I'll literally put the suit back on and redo everything just to try to get as close as possible. But yeah, the cleanup solution in Rococo was pretty good. The only thing it doesn't really do good is, like I said, if you do any type of like jumping motions, like if you jumping jacks or a flip or something of that nature, like you'll literally lose that contact sensor point and your character will just kind of like fly off into the software. So I mean, I would hope for some better solutions there. Like I know you could use, at least with that one, you could use like the Vive trackers to try to give it like a ground plane if you have a VR headset, which I don't have the Vive anymore. But yeah, for cleanup, I just try to get it as good as possible within, inside the suit, so I don't have to do that afterwards.
Yeah, and I've seen the progression of the perception neuron from the PN32. Back then, I remember people would have so many complaints about how the magnetic, influences and things like that. So as it moved from the PN32 to the Pro version, there was improvement because the casing of the neurons changed. There was a time when you actually have to use your nails to pry them out just to put them in a case for safety. So the Pro changed that, whereby they improved on the susceptibility to magnetism. And then the PN Studio suit, I think for me, I feel like it's been all the work that has gone through from PN32, from when they had the Kickstarter. You took all that knowledge and all the feedback from the people and they put it into the the Perception Neuron Studio suit. Now, there's something hidden in the Perception Neuron Studio suit that people are not using yet. It's called data process. And I'm actually also just finding out, it was about a week ago, I had a project that I was working on desperately, and there was some serious drift. I did like multiple sessions of the character dancing, and I was so desperate. So like, how does this even work? But there's data processing similar to HD processing in the Perception Neuron Studio suit, and I didn't even know about that. And I think it's because there was no tutorial just yet. But you can fix the drift as much as possible, because I mean, I've worked with the Exsense as well. The Exsense drifts about 40 seconds in, so it's way better than all the other suits. So most inertia suits have drift. That's something that you can't get away with, but it's the processing that greatly improves that part of it. And with the Perception Neuron Studio, before you used to use just a serial number to be able to activate it. They have a dongle that comes with it now. And on that dongle, there's more, like there's another module on that dongle that also helps with the processing of the data. So yes, to that question, the hardware has improved and I'm seeing the mockup getting better and better. And I spend less time cleaning up with the data that I get from the Perception Neuron Studio compared to the PN32 when it first came out.
That's cool. Yeah. See what question here from Puget. Seems like a lot of the focus is on 3D. Are there any 2D use cases for motion capture? Did it make any sense for that?
There's actually a solution for that. So with Reallusion, the animator, the character animator, you can actually use your motion capture suit to drive a 2D character. All you gotta do is just rig the character with they have like templates that you go in, and as long as they give you a PSD template that you take into Photoshop, and as long as you put your character's hand exactly where the other character is, they have a plugin that enables you to use the Perception Neuron, Rococo, even Exsense to drive that character in 2D.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we've mentioned a couple different solutions. You guys have like a quick rundown of the different types of motion capture things available?
How
Or is
much time you got?
that too broad of a? Because there's what XNs, Manus, and what else?
Perception neuron, Rococo, the AI solutions that Gabby put there to move, the Radical, the Episoft, for like the Connect and stuff like that. But with suits, it's basically just the big four, right? Your Rococo, XNs, Perception, and actually just those three, right? I guess.
Yeah, there's another one that is in still Kickstarter stage. It hasn't hit the market yet. It's similar to what Rococo is doing, but you're right. It's those major three. Oh, and I don't know what I mean. If you talk about indie filmmakers, yes, but when it comes to like Hollywood, they have their own internal systems that they're using. Maybe every now and then you see them adding on faceware, headwear, like a head mount, like the Mark IV system, for example, and that can help. That becomes apparent because it's consumer, but then internally they usually have their own system. Because I know James Cameron has his own system that he's using on Avatar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So someone new coming into this space, what would you, and they want to get a suit, how would you recommend them do some research? What should they look for?
I would say test out the data and see how the workflow, if it works with your workflow. Like for me with Unreal, like the Extends workflow is so simple. They got tutorials that go with it, so you know what you're doing if you've never done it before. And I got to test out the actual data. I played around with some of the Rococo motion library data. I never had a chance to actually take some raw data from Rococo. But for me, that workflow was like kind of complicated. I remember I was like asking Winbush, I was like, because I had to do this in Cinema 4D, and I was like, I'd spent like a month in there, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to retarget. I have no idea. So test out data from each one of the suits, and more than likely most of these companies will let you try maybe a free software trial or send you like an FBX or something, but try the data and find out if it works with your pipeline, with your workflow, because that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I would also say, well, I know we're still dealing with pandemic stuff right now, but the trade shows are starting to open up. Like, we have next month, we have the AEW conference up north in the San Francisco area. And that's going to be like all XR. I know like Manus is going to be there. I'm not sure the other solutions, but like trade shows like that or NAB or SIGGRAPH, like most of these companies are at those particular trade shows. So if you're capable of going, I would say, go to one if it's in your area and just talk with the companies. They usually are more than happy to give you a demo, kind of go through the workflows. And then if you build a rapport with them there, because, they'll give you a business card and you just keep in contact, maybe they'll send you like a free trial, like they'll give you a suit for 30 days or whatever. Like I know Gabby and Solomon can attest to that as well. Like if you reach out to these companies, usually they'll try to find a solution if you're serious and try to help you out and try to get you into their ecosystem, because at the end of the day, they want you to use their products. So they're going to, bend over backwards to try to accommodate you and really help get you into the workflow or their ecosystem there. So I would say don't be scared and just reach out to a lot of places until you find something that works for you.
Yeah. And like Gabby said, try the data as much as possible, because before I got the perception neuron, they provided the free data and the program was free. So I just downloaded it and played with it. And even with iClone, there was a trial version of iClone. So I was able to go in there, play with the data and say, okay, this is something I can actually use in my project before I went ahead and purchased one of the suits. Now, if you have the talent and you have a service that you can provide, you can also go the route of exchange of services. Because I remember I had this short film that I was trying to work on, and I knew Faceware didn't. I was such a small guy, just a blip on the radar. But I actually just wrote someone to Faceware and told them, I have this idea, and also did the same thing with Mixamo. and Mixamo. That's how I actually got to be flown over to the West Coast for those 3 days with Mixamo. I did. So GDC was coming up, and they needed an animation for their booth. I said, I can do that if we do exchange of services here for free. So I did the animation. Was I think it was about 30-second, 40-second clip that they played, like a looping kind of animation. And once I completed it, they honored their side of the deal, and they flew me out there to do my animation for the mountain gorilla character. So you could do that. You could actually do exchange of services, so that you can, move forward. But it can be expensive. Right? It can be expensive to try to get a motion capture suit, to do something like that. So just be prepared with first of all, what you bring to the table, and be honest. Don't try to lie about what you're capable of doing, and show an example of what you've done before. Sometimes it might not even be 3D. If you can show that you can tell a story using a storyboard or like a script of some kind, you'll be amazed at how doors can open with that.
That's great. You guys have any other things you want to talk about, or any? Oh, that's right. We had a question from before. Is this for just Unreal, or what other software is used for mocap? I know Unreal kind of in the virtual production gets all the headlines,
Right.
But what other softwares is available? They have plugins for Cinema 4D, Maya, all that stuff.
I was going to say, once you have the data and you export it out as a FBX, I mean, you could practically use any piece of software out there from any DCC, like, Cinema 4D, Maya, Blender, etc. Most of the real-time engines, like Unity, you can import, and most places have plugins for Unity. CryEngine, you can use that as well. So I know like Unreal, because they get the big marketing backing from, like Mandalorian and other stuff that they've been doing. So that's what everybody talks about, plus the MetaHumans and UE5 and stuff. But I mean, you could use these solutions for practically any software solutions that you have out there, except for, I mean, it has to be like a 3D app, or like Solomon was saying, like the Revolution, if you want to do 2D characters. Like you couldn't do this with like After Effects or Nuke or something. Like you would need a 3D stage to kind of bring these FBXs into.
Yeah. And even with DAZ 3D, DAZ Studio, there was a time when you couldn't do motion capture data whatsoever in DAZ Studio. And then, Face Motion came out. At first it was a Face Mojo, then it became, there was also Face Motion that came out. And for me, I love testing mocap in DAZ. So I was able to take some mocap data from the Excense suite and tested it with some of the DAZ Studio characters over there. So yes, you can use it in DAZ Studio, in Blender, as well, and Unity, because I've used motion capture data in Unity as well. Because there was a project that I worked on with a gentleman, and we were trying to do like real-time mockup using Unity. And at the time, it wasn't, I don't think there were many solutions at the time, but I think plugins are being developed right now, where you can actually plug in both ARKit support as well as the full body mockup for Unity.
Yeah, I imagine with virtual production being the huge kind of buzzword across every industry right now, every entertainment industry, that there's plugins coming for everything possible if it's not out there yet. I saw Motion Picture Academy, whatever that's called, the Oscars. They had a long virtual production live stream yesterday explaining what virtual production is to the members. And it was kind of it starts off as a really good like explanation for what all this means for filmmakers, like what the heck is virtual production. But yeah, it's everywhere. And being able to do live motion capture is, I don't know. I just took animation classes in college. I did that for a couple semesters and was like, this is not what I want to do with my life. Became an environment artist after that. But if I would have had access to a motion capture suit, that might have been different, because it's a lot better to clean up a animation than to start from scratch and make it look believable and weighty and all that stuff.
It's so strange you say that, because I remember when I went to school to study animation, It was in Maya, and it was on a Mac at the time. And I don't think I've used a Mac to animate anything in the last 4 or 5 years, you know. So there's like that transition. When I came to the US, I had come to do a degree in fine art. I thought I was going to be a painter, you know, but then I saw an animation on a plane, like I was flying a Sabina like a flight out of Europe. It wasn't Europe back then, but it was flying into the US, and they have those little TVs in the back. So there was something really cool about it, and I was like, "What is it?" So once I got to the university, I asked them, you know, what was that I saw? They told me, well, that is called animation. I've never even heard that word before. And I'm like, it's animation? Do you offer it here? They said no. And so I transferred from that university to Maryland. And so I did like a course in art and visual technology. And so I transitioned from being a painter. I still paint, but I transitioned from being a active painter into an animator after that.
That's so great. So I guess another big thing that's being talked about in this space is Unreal 5. Is that changing anything for motion capture, improving anything? Have they not really gotten into that side of it yet? It's still a pretty early access. Is there something
I would say,
with 5
like,
you're looking forward to?
I think like the person who I've seen use Unreal 5 the most with mocap would be Matt Workman, Citizen Meta 1, and using it like for his live streaming, which is crazy. Every time I try to use it, like, I've just noticed that with UE5, my particular workflow, it's like great. And then when you try to like render something out, like something goes wrong, or if you try to like create a control rig, I get crashes. So it's pretty looking. I think, but as far as like mocap and UE5, I would say like Citizen Meta 1 is like killing it in there. And I think like Corey, aka Blue, is using it for his workflow as well. And they're doing some amazing things in UE5. But I saw that tutorial that Winbush did for School of Motion. So yeah, that was, you probably know more about it than I do, Johnathan.
Yeah, I don't use UE5 too much just because I use it for a lot of client work, and like I use it to play around with, or if I need to, you know, do a tutorial. Like everybody always wants to see UE5 opposed to 4. So most of the time I'll do my tutorials now UE5, but like production work, like I'm still sticking to 4, or particularly 4.26, just because of the stability, and then a lot of the assets that I have just work in there, and the Megascans library works pretty good in there and everything. So I haven't been like Gabby was saying, like 5, like I love the UI and the new interface that they created there, and everything just, you know, it looks updated and brand new, and I really dig it. But just, you know, it's still in the alpha stages, and so I really don't particularly, you know, use it too much for any type of professional work, just merely tutorials. But the motion capture stuff that I tried to put in there, I was getting a lot of errors and a lot of crashes. And that was when UE5 first came out. Like I know there's been updates since then, but I just haven't really tried anything recently.
Yeah, and most of the plugins that we use, they've not been updated yet for
that too.
Unreal Engine 5. Yeah. So the way I use it for me is I do all my animation in the Unreal Engine 4.26, and then once I have the sequencer ready, then I take the whole project and open it in the Unreal Engine 5 for rendering, purely for rendering, and also for lighting. So I love Lumen, you know. Like Gabby said, it's pretty, right? It is beautiful. So that's the main reason why. Because there's a short film that I actually did that ended up being in the Unreal Engine 5. I think Nanite rescued me. My project was crashing like crazy, and this is before I got the Puget system, right? By the way, is it Puget or Puget?
Puget.
Puget? Oh,
Yes.
I've been trying to pronounce it like it was French.
Oh,
I was going to say, it's not a French company.
I hear Puget. I hear people calling it Puget sometimes. I'm like, oh, that's so different.
That's the fancy term for it.
Yeah, so it was before I got that system that I transitioned to working in the Unreal Engine 5, because it sped up my it was this village, you know. I had my team and I, we modeled this entire village. Then I brought in the characters, it was a heavy scene for 4.26 to handle. I kept running out of memory constantly. And then the Unreal Engine 5, came out. I was like, let me try it. And the project was able to load. I rendered days on it. I didn't want even to stop, because if I stop, I was like, it's going to probably break or something. And I was able to go from beginning to end and rendered out that short film, which is actually making the run, the festival run right now. It has gotten, I think, several nominations, but I was rescued by Unreal Engine 5. So I can't wait for it to become fully, commercial, like fully functional, and all our plugins working.
So can I ask, when you converted from 4 to 5, you didn't have any type of issues at all? Because I've tried that as well, and I just ran into like a whole plethora of, errors, and just like some stuff didn't convert over that well. And so I just stick with 4. Like I tried to use 5 the same way that you used it, but just, trying to even migrate my scene from 4 to 5, even I was having issues there as well.
Yeah, disclaimer. I think ever since I got that machine from Puget, that has been a difference maker, because I don't know if it's the memory issue, like you're talking about Winbush, because some of the errors that I was getting was constant crashes. Even before I transitioned to this new machine, it was because memory, I just kept, my scenes were so big, and I wanted to be able to get close to the characters. So we're using really high-res textures, and so until before, when I didn't have the 3090, I was just running into errors, like crazy errors, because of first of all, it runs out of memory. It can't compile. It takes forever to compile something. Sometimes 5 hours just trying to wait and see if it will actually work. Those are the kind of challenges that I was experiencing.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. I was like, how'd you do that? I'd be too scared to be like, oh, open with different version. Oh.
Yeah. So another quick thing, Winbush, the errors that I ran into had to do with the plugins. So if the project had multiple plugins, that I used to make that particular, and it would have the errors in. So what I would do is, first of all, once I had baked down everything, I made sure to uncheck every single plugin inside of the Unreal Engine 4.26 before sending it to the Unreal Engine 5. And that's when the headaches went away, because it tries to run some of the files that have telltale, files from 4.26 with plugins. Like there's so many things that sometimes I don't even know what's happening behind the scenes. So they are always like ghosts waiting to pop out. And once I unchecked all the plugins and then transported that to the Unreal Engine 5, I didn't run into those issues again. But that means I couldn't do anything else, It was just a sitting,
All the scenes I've tried to migrate to 5, like the way I lit everything before, like it doesn't work with Lumen. So like using emissive materials, not as lights, but as just kind of giving them brightness. Now they're lights, and doesn't render correctly. And I have quite a bit of stuff to migrate to 5, and I'm having a hard enough time getting from 4.26 to 4.27 for these programs. So when 5 is finally out, I'm not looking forward to that.
Say unless there's some feature inside of 4.27 that you need, I've been just sticking with 4.26. Like I've been having like my workflow, I work a lot with Cinema 4D to Unreal, and I've been having issues with 2.7 there. So I just stick with what works. If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it.
I will say 4.27, I'm doing a tutorial right now in there. It's like a MetaHuman face control rig tutorial, and I started it in 4.26. And whenever I would just like keyframe, like 10 keyframes on the face control rig board, and I would save that sequence, it would take a minute for that sequence to save. I brought it into 4.27. I redid the whole tutorial in 4.27, and you'll notice that it's capped at 60 frames. Like that's how all the 4.27 projects are. They're all capped at 60 frames, which at first I was like, why is that? And then like I started working on my tutorial, and then I'd hit save, bam, done. Like it's very well optimized, and I can see why they would optimize it for virtual production. I guess like those were the updates. So it's 4.26. but with the virtual production update. So if you're like inputting, you know, all of your other, you know, external, you know, like mixed reality and LED stuff, I could see why 4.27 would be much easier to work with. So I would say it's like kind of like a plus version, you know, like it's a smoother ride in there. That's about it, you know.
I have a quick question. This is to Gabi and Winbush. So the three of us come from a cinematography background. How are you transitioning that into? Are you able to apply some of those skill sets into the Unreal Engine? You can go first, Gabi.
You go first. You go first.
When you say cinematography, you mean like from like
videography? Yeah, from traditional cameras, from using traditional cameras.
Yeah, I didn't have a big background in using traditional cameras. Like I did photography, just, you know, it's like a side passion when I'm hiking and stuff like that. So my knowledge of, you know, like all the camera settings and everything on a DSLR is very minimum. But what I did like inside of Unreal was it did try to mimic the real world cameras as much as possible. So like all those different settings there, your ISOs and your shutters and all that type stuff, it's all there. So if you do have like a cinematography background, the virtual camera in there should work just like a real world camera. And they even try to match it to, you know, like to the Airy cameras and the Red cameras, things like that. Like you can match those settings. And if you have like, you know, like the iPad or the iPhone and you hook it up with the Live Link, you can actually run those settings on your tripod, as I've seen you guys do before as well. And, you know, kind of run through and do your camera work that way with the handheld camera. So I think a lot of that stuff is really cool because it makes everything seem more natural as to automatic. As I was working, you know, with like Cinema and Redshift, like it was tougher to get it to look the way that I wanted as just using the cameras inside of Unreal. So I think Unreal made the adaptability a lot easier in those regards.
Yeah. I'm just finding that because I'm actually learning more about film and cinematography from using Unreal than I did when I actually had like my 1DX and I had all these lenses and stuff. Like I use that now to like record my tutorials, but I'm learning more about cinematics in Unreal itself. Yes, there's those real world those virtual camera tools that you can use. But what I'm finding is finding a balance between creating content, telling stories, and making tutorials now. Because like if I want to accomplish something visually in Unreal, I have to learn how to do that. And for me, like the face mocap with the metahumans is kind of becoming an obsession. So I want to be able to perfect that. And in order to do that, I have to like study the face control rig board. So I'm setting up cameras and like, you know, adjusting all these things as I'm doing my tutorial. So I'm learning so much about how to organize like this face control rig tutorial had like 87 sequences, all keyframed, and organizing them and making sure everything was framed correctly. I learned so much. So it's finding a balance between like creating cinematics and telling amazing stories, and at the same time learning and sharing what you're learning with the community, because this is so new. There isn't a video out there that like, there actually is. There's one really, really good one on the face control rig board. So yeah, it's more of a journey, Solomon. It's like, you know, I don't know, but I love it.
Yeah. I forgot his name. He goes by Punisher on
Clint. Yeah,
Clint, there we go.
Punisher. Yep.
Yeah, he just had a video on making things look more cinematic because he comes from the cinematic background.
Yeah.
And so he goes into some of the details about selecting like what film back and what lens type and all that kind of stuff and how to make it look more cinematic. I came from a game industry background, so I'm with Gabby. I'm learning how to do the cinematic stuff in Unreal as we go along. A couple questions from chat. Where is it? Quickly, Chris Hunkler says, is it possible to capture data from VR trackers on inexpensive? It is possible, right? It's not the best, but it's possible.
Yeah, I would say. Oh, go ahead, Gabby.
No, I think like Matt, like look at Citizen Meta One stuff, like and he's developing this stuff, like he's taking it a step further. Another guy, Kai, I can't pronounce his name right, but I'll look it up. It's like Mega Steak Man. I'll have to look it up. But they're all using VR. They're using like Vive equipment to capture motion capture on the metahumans, which is like super hard already because their skeletons are not like too simple. So absolutely, you can definitely do it, but I'm sure there will be like some type of cleanup.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was going to say the Manus system too, that Polygon system, that's built for the Vive system and everything. So if you already have like a Vive, it doesn't work with Oculus because, of course, you know, they have their standalone headset, so you do need a Vive. The Lighthouse stations there, but Manus has a solution there too, where you just take like the Vive pucks and, you know, you connect them to your belt, then each one of the joints, and you'll be able to use your VR solution in that regard as well.
And then another question from Stellar Elite. Finally jumped into UE properly after starting Winbush's course. I'm wondering if it's normal for it to take like 30 minutes to open some projects. Would a better processor help? First time opening a project in Unreal is not unusual for it to take a very long time. A lot of things are happening in the background. Shaders are being compiled, a bunch of other stuff. And the first opening, sometimes a better CPU doesn't help because like I was opening a project recently and I was watching Task Manager during it, and like it would hang at 39%, which I'm sure we've all seen Unreal stop at 39%.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing happening on the CPU. I don't know why it freezes like that, but it's not unusual for Unreal to take a very long time, especially the first time opening a project. But when it's compiling shaders and all that kind of stuff, then you want a CPU with more cores. The more cores, the faster it's going to compile shaders because it can do them at the same time.
Yeah, I pointed out that question because I was curious to what you were going to say, Kelly. 'Cause I know you guys do a lot of benchmarking on a lot of this stuff. So I was curious as well because a lot of people asked me this question. So I wasn't sure if it was, you know, CPU would help or more RAM, or if it's the GPU that you have. Like, what's the hang up there? Because I know a lot of times it's compiling shaders when you first open it. Like, you usually don't hit that issue again once you start using it, but it's that initial opening of Unreal that really set people back that think, you know, it's broken a lot of times. They're like, why isn't this working? I've been having to sit here for 15 minutes. And I'm like, you know, just be patient. It's doing some compiling in the background. I don't know what it is, but I don't know what the solution is to help, you know, make that accelerate there.
Yeah, for the most part, it would just be main thing that's happening that takes a long time is the compiling of shaders. So
and
that's
also, are you on a Mac? You know, if like I would ask that question, like, is it a Mac or a PC? If it's a Mac, like that's pretty much, you know, cut and dry. If it's a PC, you know, like I'd look at the specs maybe, but
yeah, I would
and
also
also
say, go ahead.
Yeah, when I remember when I did something when I still had my old system, I updated my hard drive to an SSD hard drive, and that made a big difference because if you have this 72 RPM, you know, going around and around, it takes forever to access files and, you know, compile things like that. So I realized once I updated my primary drive to an SSD, things changed. You know, there was some improvement at least that I noticed. Chris had another question about the price of motion capture suits.
The ballpark of motion capture suits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like I say, Rococo is $2,500. I mean, that's across the board. Like, I think they have 5 different sizes, but the suit size doesn't matter because you could take the sensors out of them and apply them to any tactile suit. So for the full suit, well, I say the suit itself without the gloves is $25, and then I believe the gloves might be another $1,100 to $1,200. So, like, if you want the full solution with the body and the hands, that's going to cost you around $2,700, I believe. And that's on the Rococo side. I'm not sure about the other suits there.
Yeah, for the perception neuron suit, it ranges. I think the last price was about $14.99 for the PN32, but the PN32 is phasing out. So now it's the PN3 really, which is the lower version. And I think that's $19.99. The Perception Neuron Studio suit is $599, it was $6,000 really, without the gloves. And
Oh,
then,
wow.
so once you add the gloves on, you're looking at around $7,000, $7,500 for that. Now the software is free. So once you get the hardware, you don't have to pay anymore after that. There's no subscription, nothing.
I would say go on the virtual production, the Unreal Engine virtual production Facebook page. I'm literally looking at someone posted in the files section. They have a complete breakdown of how much every single one of these suits cost. It's got Rococo, the Excenza Winda, the link. It has the price of the actual hardware, how it works, how much the software is. So if you really want to like have it mapped out, go on the virtual production group, go under links and look up the mocap breakdown over there for sure.
That virtual production Facebook group is really good. Highly recommend anyone that's out there interested in virtual production join on there, because you'll see the whole range of virtual production, from indies to big, huge film sets with like, 300-foot LED caves and stuff.
I believe there's two big ones on Facebook, right? Because Citizen One, Matt has one, and then I think there's an Unreal one. Those both are pretty big there on Facebook.
Okay, I didn't know Matt had his own. I'll have to go look for that myself.
Yeah, he's got a new one. I wasn't invited.
Oh, he has a new one. 'Cause I know he made one.
I don't think he does. I think I don't know. I thought the Unreal Engine virtual production one was his or is his. The other big one,
and handed it off to someone else.
There you go.
That's what it is.
What's the other big one? There's so many. There's like a lot. Like the real-time filmmakers that John McInnes has.
Oh yeah, that one. Right.
That one. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of resources out there for sure. Now there are. Asked me a year ago, I would have been like, I don't know.
And I think that's where I met Gabi. It was in the virtual production Facebook group.
Was it? Because I was probably like trying to do something and I was watching your video. Like I couldn't get the UE Live Link face thing to work. And I was like, why is this so hard? And I found your tutorial and like you were showing on your phone. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. And I think then I messaged you about like, I messaged you for troubleshooting, just like Johnathan.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm stuck, help me.
And actually for me, for getting into Winbush, that got me into it. I watched his videos. I'm fairly new to the Unreal Engine, actually. So for me,
really?
it was, I'm fairly new. I come from like DCC kind of, Maya, 3ds Max, those kind of things, work, animate there, render there. But once I saw some of your tutorials, I was sold. I was like, I really have to jump into some of this stuff. And watching Gabi progress so fast was actually inspiring. I'm like, someone can actually learn this program and go from this point to this point. I was so impressed and so inspired.
It's because of the guy. Which way am I pointing? Winbush. It's this
Over
guy.
there.
His fault. He started it.
And I mean, I have to say on air, I'm proud of your progress. Like, I know you're like one of the first people to take my course there, which I really appreciate. And just to see how far you came in such a short period of time. Like, I mean, you surpassed me, especially when it comes to like the motion capture stuff. I'm just like, holy crap, like she's killing it. Like you're on the front of like Xsan's page now and they're shouting you out and you're on the main stage now. So, I mean, it's cool to see like someone as yourself that didn't know anything about this stuff. And within a year, you're landing deals with like big corporations and you're doing movie with Haas and stuff like that. I mean, it's been really cool to kind of witness in real time. So yeah, hats off to you. It's been an amazing journey to witness from the sideline.
Thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you. So
yeah, and I keep telling people, I keep telling people that feeding wolves, and you call feeding wolves, Gabi. By the way, why is it feeding wolves? I've always wanted to ask that.
It's actually, I'm working on a short film. I will break that down in that.
Okay.
There's a story behind it for sure.
Yeah, I always tell people that if you ever want to be inspired on, like, if you want to get into the Unreal Engine, from knowing nothing to creating something awesome, you have to check out Gabby's YouTube channel, because I believe that anyone can learn the Unreal Engine. You just have to have the passion for it. You have to be willing to use it to tell stories. And I think what you've done, Gabby, is inspirational, to so many people.
Thank you so much. I don't want this live stream to be over. I want to hang out here forever with you guys.
But I was
Oh
going
my
to say
God.
too, it's funny you say you learned Unreal from me, Solomon, because actually your tutorial I saw when you was doing Octane with Unreal, that was kind of one of those moments that, because I've been a traditional cinema artist. I've used Octane and Redshift, and then you're the only person I've seen online that was like, hey, I'm using Octane and Unreal. And I'm just like, what are you doing? I think I even messaged you, like, how did you make this work or whatever? But it's one of those things too. It's like, okay, it made my progression from cinema to Unreal easier, because I can see the tools that I'm already familiar with are inside this new platform as well. So that was one of those videos that I saw that was like, oh, okay, I can just use the stuff that I'm used to using inside of Unreal. So I would say you're one of those influences that helped me like keep going with it and keep exploring and pursuing what I was doing in there.
Awesome. So what do you think of the new RTX in 4.27? The path tracing.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't been using this 2.7. Like, I mean, it's an awesome addition. I'm more like, I love Lumen with the N5, and so if anything, that's what I'm really waiting for them to kind of solidify, 5 and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's cool for the people that wanted it, but I'm really just sitting here waiting for 5 to really become more stable and to finally release, hopefully early 2022. But who knows where it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they can bring some of the new stuff that they added with 427 for virtual production into 5, because some of that's missing still. I think it could be a really good product.
Like with the past tracing, would they even go into 5? Because I know it kind of makes it into like an offline render almost, and it looks good, but I don't think it's going to be in 5, right?
Oh,
The
it
Path
is.
Tracer is mainly
it's there
for
okay.
It's mainly there for as a benchmark to say this is what the accurate lighting would be, and then you can compare that to your either without ray tracing or with Lumen and see if it's behaving.
For me, I find it fascinating because Octane does something similar to the path tracer in 4.27, and I think that's why I'm excited about it, because eventually I know Lumen is gonna take over. The Unreal Engine 5 comes, fully functional, but I played with it. I played with the path tracing, and there's still so many things that it's lacking, that it doesn't support it. Even in 4.27, there's still some things that Octane does better. And I think Octane, they're trying to make something called Brigade, that is real-time, path tracing. And I'm hoping that they can do that in the Unreal Engine 5.0 with the path tracer there, because I see it. It's there. It's there, but they don't tout it as much as in 4.27.
Yeah, speaking to a toy, they said that Brigade should work with Unreal moving forward, so that would be interesting to see as well. Like, they're trying to be like that universal, almost like the NVIDIA Omni. I don't know if you messed around with that system, where they're trying to be like every DCC is welcomed, and you could use our solution to render out your final output. So at least in my understanding, that's how Brigade's going to work. Like, they're saying no matter what platform you're on, you should be able to utilize Brigade for the real-time path tracing.
Interesting.
Solomon, I'm waiting for a tutorial on that, please. Thank you.
On Brigade or Omni?
Brigade for sure. Omni, I mean, I'm already busy with what I'm doing in Unreal to learn a whole other thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
And
yet,
I think
maybe.
for Brigade, what Otto is doing, I think they may have seen what NVIDIA has seen, because with 5.0, it's becoming agnostic when it comes to graphics cards. So with the Lumen being CPU, can be CPU based, you really don't need like a really super duper graphics card to be able to run. And you can use the AMD as well as the NVIDIA graphics cards in those systems. So NVIDIA may have seen the light, and maybe that's why they're doing the Omniverse, because they want to still be able to provide that kind of real-time lighting, using their graphics cards.
I know even Epic put out a press release a couple of months ago, even saying that the AMD GPUs actually run Unreal 5 better than the NVIDIA cards, because I guess they helped in the development there. Because UE5, I mean, it was built for almost the PlayStation 5 and then the Xbox Series S and X, and that's all AMD components in there. So they work tight knit with AMD to optimize the systems for there. So I was looking at, I mean, Kelly could probably speak more to this, but I was actually looking at the benchmarks and stuff, and they were saying that the recent AMD GPUs with 5 actually outperform, even like the 3090s and stuff like that.
Unfortunately, I don't have any AMD cards.
The
article I did with the AMD cards, I had to borrow from Linus Tech Tips. To borrow his AMD card because we couldn't get one. We still haven't gotten one. All right, we are a bit over time. So Houston, are you there? Do you want to jump in and wrap us up?
Can you hear me? I was fiddling. Okay, good. Everything worked out okay. Yeah, so that does bring us a little bit over our hour, which is totally cool. You guys were having a great conversation, and that was everything I could have hoped for. So thank you guys so much. Solomon, Winbush, Gabby, Kelly, thank you all for joining us today, for taking time out of the day to give us a little insight into just virtual production, motion capture, how that all works and everything. Thank you guys very much. And I would also, as always, like to thank the audience for joining us as well. It's been an action-packed, just week of content, and we only have one more day left. We're hitting virtual production from another angle tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. I can't recall our guest list, but tune in, keep an eye on the channel or our landing page for our live stream extravaganza. And so we'll see you then tomorrow as well. Just before we sign out, is there anything you guys would like to shout out or tell anybody about before we go? I'll post all of your YouTube links in the chat.
I think a collaboration is long overdue between Winbush, Gabby, and I.
Yeah.
Yes, please. As soon as I'm done with this tutorial, I'm down.
Yeah. I say the holidays are going to open up. Yeah, we should talk. We could probably make something happen.
Oh man, look at that.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Awesome. Well, again, thank you all so much, and we'll see you for the audience as well. We'll see you next time. See you tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Take care, everybody. Thank you guys again.
Bye.